A little background about me. I own essentially 3 of my own businesses at the moment. One of the businesses that I do is merchant services. And how I got into it was I was a salesperson working for AT&T doing retail sales of cell phones and that kind of thing. And I kind of got to the peak, like as much as you can do, I was doing, and there really wasn't anywhere to go except for up into like director level and that kind of thing. And it was too much politics for me, as you know, we're all like probably libertarian type anarchists, whatever here. I'm very similar. So I got tired of being in that kind of like environment where you can't move anywhere up. So my parents actually own a merchant service company, and they work with some partners of ours out of Boston. And so I decided, let me get into the corporate world and see how awesome that'll be, you know? And so I was working in downtown Boston for one of the top merchant service companies in the world at the moment. And, you know, I was Top Gun. I had like the most deals they'd ever written in the first month and all this other crazy stuff. And I did, a good job. I had a good time. It was a great company. They were very open about the way that they did their sales. It was not like one of those boiler room type situations, although it was inside sales, so there were cubicles and all that stuff. And I worked nationwide, so I would talk to people over the phone, making 100 phone calls a day, that type of thing. But me, I'm a little bit more, I guess I've always been kind of this political mindset that I have now, where I'm very honest, I'm very open with people, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to tell you how it is, you know what I mean? And so I would sit on the phone for like 2 to 3 hours just having a conversation with somebody about whatever they wanted to talk about, and my managers would get so upset with me because, you're not dialing, you're not making 50 calls a day, and so anyways, but I was making the most sales, so what did it matter is how many calls you made, right? Anyway, so that's just a little background on me. Now I do social marketing and internet marketing and affiliate marketing, so I have more of an entrepreneurial background at this point, but the merchant services is something I've been doing for about 5 years now. So I've got a lot of experience in the industry. I wrote over 1,000 accounts while I was in downtown Boston for a couple years. And I helped people all the way from mom and pop shops all the way up to like Little Caesars, chain restaurant owners, and that kind of thing. So the reason I wanted to talk today was just to help Liberty business owners and people who are liberty-minded, if you want to get into a business at some point or open your own business. Merchant services is something that you really can get screwed hardcore on, and I wanted to kind of just give people an overall understanding of how not to get screwed, essentially. So I wanted this to be as open as possible. So how many of you either own a business or are looking to open up your own business at some point? Okay, so probably pretty much everyone would be that way. You wouldn't have any interest in payment processing if you didn't. So basically, how many of you understand like what merchant services is? Okay, so merchant services is basically like if you go to the store and you see a credit card machine that somebody allows you to swipe your debit card or credit card through, that's what merchant services is. We're the payment processor, the ones that essentially is the middleman from Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. We take and put that money into your account since you're the business owner, and we take that money out of their credit card or debit card, what have you, right? So that's like a brief kind of overview of how it works. There's a lot of different levels to merchant services. So when you deal with merchant services, you're not typically dealing with Visa or MasterCard, for example. You would never deal with them, actually. They don't do straight merchant services. So you deal with an organization that gets you set up, that sells you the credit card terminal, and then that organization has essentially like a higher level to it, which is the actual processor. Okay, so the best way to explain how it all works is Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, and the bank executives all got together and they decided, it was like this big meeting, at this like corporate table where they're all sitting there with their high back chairs and everything discussing what should we do about what to charge people for merchant services, because there's a risk level for them, right? If you have a debit card or a credit card and someone steals your credit card and runs through your credit card at different stores, if you call your bank, typically you can get refunded, right? Like you can get it cut off, get all the charges refunded because it was fraudulent charges. So there's a risk to taking credit cards because on the provider side, if someone commits fraud against them, they have to eat those fees, right? So there's different fees that are associated with each card because of that. And there's certain cards that are more expensive than others. I'm sure you've all seen like rewards type programs. Most commonly it comes in the form of, airline points and those kinds of things, the world points type of things. And so basically that is also a cost to the bank. The bank has to pay you in order to use that card, right? And so who do you think takes the hit on, the cost? The merchant, the business owner who is taking that card ends up paying those fees. So it's kind of a little bit socialist in that they're moving, fees around and they're kind of redistributing that wealth, taking it from the business owners and giving it to the consumers. But anyways, some of the most common things that you want to be aware of with merchant services is getting involved with people who are going to try to push a lease on you for a terminal. Terminals are, as technology gets better and better, terminals are becoming less and less expensive. Back in the day, it used to cost like $10,000 to buy a terminal. So, you would want to lease it because it was so expensive, most people can't buy it outright. Well, nowadays, you can get a terminal for under $200, you know what I mean? So you're not going to want to do a 5-year lease for $20 a month on a $200 piece of equipment. Just doesn't make any sense. So that's something I always tell people to be aware of, because a lot of companies try to push the free terminal program, and I'm sure we're all aware nothing in life is free, right? So what sense does that make if you're using your brain? There's got to be some way that they're making this up, right? That's just common sense. They're not going to give away something that costs them money because they have to make it back. Otherwise, they'd be in red. So anyways, and the fees are obviously something that to average people like you and I and everyone else doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you look at it at first. I had to go through like 6 months of training to understand it all and really have a deep grasp of what it is. So it's kind of hard to just explain in a few minutes, but I'll do my best. Like I said, there's the banks and the processor that get together and they decide, okay, this is what this type of card is going to cost, right? Because these are the risks associated with it, these are the rewards associated with it. So they can vary anywhere from 0.05% all the way up to 3.2%, something like that. So the biggest thing that you want to be aware of is providers who are going to tell you that they can give you a flat rate or a rate of something that just sounds really low. A lot of providers these days like to say that they'll give out 0.5%, but then it's a little star asterisk next to it, and it's 0.5% for debit cards. But that debit card costs them 0.05. So if they're charging you 0.5%, really at the end of the day, you're paying 0.45 above what it costs them. See what I'm saying? Yep.
I thought we had a RSA in the state that limited debit card charges to 22 cents or something.
It's not state level, it's federal level. Yeah, and I'll get into that in a couple of minutes. But basically, merchant services is largely unregulated, which can be a good thing, can also be a bad thing if most of the companies in the industry agree to screw people, right? So, there's not much government regulation that has happened. There are a few different regulations that have come out to try to regulate the cost, but at the end of the day, the way that it ended up working was that it ended up causing it just to be shifted around. So it's not really saving anyone any money at the end of the day. It does save business owners some money, so I'll get into a little bit more of an explanation of that in a minute. But Is everyone kind of following me at the moment? Am I moving too fast or
No, too
just
slow.
let me too slow? Okay.
No, just wait for me.
Okay, good. There's always going to be like a monthly fee associated with an account. The way that providers typically do it is they give you a monthly paper statement, or they get you connected with an online system that they created. It's a proprietary online billing system, right? And they'll show you your monthly bills. It's usually kind of just BS to give you an extra fee. So watch out for that if you see something that they're trying to charge you for using their online system. It doesn't really cost people that much money. Most of the core providers or core processors give that for free with each account, so it's not something to pay for. But monthly fees range anywhere from like $6 up to like $20, $30. And it usually includes the, like I said, the paper statement. It usually includes your customer service, your technical support, that type of thing. The thing you want to be careful of is a lot of companies, they outsource the technical support and customer service, and then they tell you that it's 24/7, so it sounds great, 24/7. But then you get connected to somebody in a different country who doesn't speak English very well, and you can't relate to them very well, right? So it becomes hard to actually get answers when you have questions. So that's something to be careful of. There's like certain, I guess you could say, hot terms to be aware of, and 24/7 customer support is one of those terms. Another one is termination fee, no termination fee. So a lot of them will say, oh, it's no contract or no termination fee, right? But then when you get into the actual application and when you get actually into the details of the paperwork, because a lot of times they'll give you like a one-page application and tell you that this is all that there is. But then on the application it says, for the full schedule of fees, refer to online at this website, and it's a 30-page document that has, you know, all kinds of legalese that doesn't make any sense to normal people. And so you end up getting something buried in there that'll say, okay, well, if you leave your agreement, they don't call it a contract, they call it, if you leave your agreement early, then you will pay the damages that we incur for not having your account for the remainder of the term. And they'll generally put like a 24-month, 36-month term on it. So what ends up happening is if your account was making them $30, $40 a month in profit, then they'll charge you $30, $40 a month times, let's say you leave 1 month in, times 23 months or 35 months. See what I'm saying? So it gets very confusing, and it can really get very expensive. So that's why a lot of people, they treat merchant services as if it's kind of like this new, you know, used car salesman mentality, right? And that's one of the reasons why I actually kind of moved away from merchant services a little bit, because personally I don't like to be involved and like looked at as that type of person, because I'm not. So mainly these days I just do it as consulting for friends and, you know, referrals of friends and referrals of my existing portfolio of business, just to help people, because I see so many people getting really just, you know, the wool pulled over their eyes, and all these different sales terms and things that they get screwed over, and it's just not fun. So anyways, was there any questions or anything? Yep.
So, do you really have to read the 30 pages of legal gobbledygook?
I advise it. She asked if you have to read the legal document, if you have to actually go through the 30 pages. What I usually do personally is I just kind of glance over things and look for those hot terms. And if you see any of those, be careful, because that's a company that probably is not being very straightforward with you. Generally, the first sign is that they're sending you to a website with a 30-page document, right? If they're telling you to go to, on the application, refer to the 30-page document located at a different place than what I'm handing you, that's a good sign that they're probably not being 100% truthful with you right off the bat. right? Because if they were being truthful with you, why would they need to send you to another place to get that information? They should just give it to you right off the bat, right? So basically, you have your monthly service fees. There's all kinds of extra monthly fees that you can really get tied into that you don't know about. I've seen on a lot of different providers' applications, what they'll do is they'll have like this statement club, this monthly statement club where you get a certain amount of printer paper for your terminal included, and they say that it's this great deal because, for $12.95 a month you get 2 rolls of paper a month, and you get your statements and all this stuff. Well, if you go online, you can go to, I think it's, trying to remember the name of the website. Anyways, if you get with me at another point in time, I can give you my business cards. You can email me and I'll get you the name of this website I'm trying to, I wish I could remember the name. Anyways, it's a website where essentially they sell the paper for way cheap, like 30 rolls for $20 or something like that. So it's, you don't have to pay those extra monthly fees to have access to these kind of things, and you can get it much cheaper, obviously, on the free market, right? There's usually a thing called a monthly minimum, which I heard some people talking about earlier. That's something you want to be very hyper aware of, because a lot of salespeople, what they'll pitch it as is, okay, well, as long as you're actually taking business, you don't have to worry about the monthly minimum. And they'll try and say that it's going to be eaten away by the fees that you get when you're taking cards, right? So if you're actually processing business, which most of the time, especially if you're a retail business, you hope you're processing business, right? So you can pay rent. A lot of providers, they actually make the wording of the contract so that it says, okay, well, only the transaction fee, which is like 10 cents or 20 cents or whatever, chips away at that monthly minimum. So you have to do like 1,000 transactions to hit that monthly minimum. You see what I'm saying? It's lots of different ways to do that, and that's something that I advise to be very aware of is, if they have a monthly minimum, I probably wouldn't do business with them personally. If they have a termination fee, I wouldn't do business with them personally. And I'm not just saying that because I do this. I'm just saying that because it's general advice that I would give to anybody. So let's see here. So the way that the transaction fees work. Visa, I don't know, have any of you heard of Square?
I was gonna ask that about.
Yeah. It's a popular thing because they have a huge budget. They're kind of tied to PayPal. I don't know if you're. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, exactly. So they have a huge budget. They can market and it sounds all well and good. They send you a free dongle, and you just pay a flat rate, 2.7% or whatever it is. 2.7%. I think it's 30 cents a transaction. It's a little high. In my opinion, you can get much cheaper merchant services than that. And if you're doing any kind of business at all, then it's probably not best for you. I advise people who they only sell specialty items once every couple of months, something like that. If you go to an art show or something like that, and you're not actually doing business on a daily basis, a monthly basis, they may be a good fit, because you're paying higher percentage, but you're not paying monthly fees. You're not paying a setup fee for the chip, the little dongle. So it can be beneficial. But if you're actually accepting business on a regular basis, even just $1,500 to $2,000 a month in processing, which isn't a whole lot, then you can get much cheaper service overall by going with an actual merchant provider. And there's a lot of other benefits to going with a real merchant provider versus something like Square. Square is, they're not an actual merchant provider, so they don't assume the risk on the transactions. So a lot of the times, one of the things that you want to be careful of is, okay, if somebody comes to you and buys your product, and then they go back to their bank and say, I never bought that, blah, blah, blah. Well, with Square, since they don't take that risk on that transaction, they're just going to take the money back out of your account, give it to the customer. Because it's just the easiest way to deal with transactions like that. And if any of you have ever accepted PayPal, they do the same thing. They'll just pull the money right out of your account. You don't even know anything about it. It kind of sucks because you can't appeal it because it's in the agreement that you sign when you sign up for the account. So anyways, with an actual merchant provider, there's steps. Like they have to contact the bank of the person who had the card, right, and ask them, okay, can I see the they have to contact you, the bank has to contact you and ask you as the merchant, can I see the receipt? Can I see the signature on the receipt, right? So as much as you can, you want to get a signature. Signature is probably the biggest thing that protects you against fraud. And fraud, believe it or not, is actually a pretty big thing in the payment processing industry. If you've ever accepted business, you probably have at some point dealt with a situation where somebody tried to dispute that charge with their bank, and that can cripple a business, especially if you have specialty items that are $500 to $1,000 a piece, and you put a lot of time and effort into it, and you put a lot of resources into it. Like if you had to buy items to put that item together, see what I'm saying? So it can really hurt. Anyways, so. Is there any kind of like general questions at this point that anyone wants to ask?
I have a question about like if you're doing, for example, online credit card processing transactions. I noticed like there's a lot of services where you could do the credit card processing where there's not a monthly fee involved and stuff, but you would have to, for example, go through like a PayPal type portal or something like that. What's like I see most of them they have like a $20 to $30 fee if you want to like process it through your own site as long as it's encrypted and everything's properly like that. But it's usually like a $30 fee involved in that every month. Is that normal or is there some that are cheaper than that?
Well, so just as an example, I have access to one that would be $5 a month with a small setup fee, like $40, $50 setup fee. So it's a one-time setup fee, and then you pay $5 a month. So it's actually pretty cheap for an e-commerce gateway. And you probably all heard of it if you are familiar with e-commerce at all. It's called Authorized.net.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was looking at them, and they were like 20 to 30. They had a whole bunch of resellers. You usually don't deal with them directly, right?
Right. Yeah. Resellers are the way to go. We're actually the company that I am essentially backed by. They're the #1 reseller of Authorized.net. So they get the lowest price because they do the most business. It just kind of makes sense, right? Economic sense. I'm not trying to push my service at all. I'm just saying that's the type of thing that we can do. So anyways, so with transaction fees, this can get really confusing. A lot of providers, what they like to do is set it up on tiered rates, okay? And they'll tell you that, you're only going to pay 0.6%, right? But they don't tell you that that's only for qualified debit cards. And if you take a rewards card, there's going to be a non-qualified surcharge on top of that 0.6% of another 2.8%, or whatever it is, right? So it's in the contract. It's usually always in the contract, but most of us, we don't have the time to understand those types of things. So it can get very frustrating, right? So what you want to be careful of, honestly, I advise stay away from tiered pricing altogether. There's a bunch of different ways that merchant providers can set you up with prices. I recommend getting set up with what's called Interchange Plus. Interchange is the rates that the banks and the card providers have set. So those are essentially, no matter where you are in the world, you're going to pay at least interchange, right? And then you pay above interchange based on the company that you're contracting with, right? So the Interchange Plus, essentially what it is it says, okay, if the cost to us, the provider, is 0.05% and 15 cents, for example, on a debit card, then you just pay that, what I pay, plus a certain amount. So plus, I usually do 0.2% and 10 cents. Okay, so that debit card, that qualified debit card would cost you 0.25% and 25 cents. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and then that ranges, like I said, 0.05 and 15, that's the lowest. And then it goes all the way up to, like I said, 3.2, something like that, roughly. So your highest end cost would be right 3.4 and 30 cents, okay, because the 20 cents is the transaction fee on those higher ones. Yep.
I just wanted to interject. You said,
Sure.
I'm not trying to sell you on my business or whatever, but I'm here to hear your pitch.
Yeah.
I want you to try to sell me
Well,
a business.
the reason I say that is because I'm not trying to be a salesman, because I don't really do that full time anymore. I'm just trying to help people understand things, but I will sell you my service if you want it. So it's all.
So let's get this part of it out of the way, and then we can,
Yeah.
afterwards talk to us more.
And this is so like
that part of it?
I want to provide, and you guys are familiar with the concept of like sales 2.0 or inbound marketing. Okay, so inbound marketing is the philosophy of I'm going to provide you with a value, I'm going to provide you with a service for free, and then hopefully, because you see my knowledge and expertise and everything like that, you'll want to do business with me based on that trust level that I've established initially. So I'm not trying to be that kind of overt, car salesman type. I'm trying to provide a value to you by teaching you about this stuff so that you understand how it works. And this is the way that I worked when I was in the company working in downtown Boston. And like I said, I would have a couple-hour conversations with people just explaining these things and talking about fishing or whatever else. And I think that the reason that I did so well was because of the fact that I was honest with people and I would explain these things so that they actually understood what they're getting into. And I wasn't just going, oh, I'll give you 0.6% and I'll give you a free terminal. And, because all those things, they sound all well and good, but they're just sales pitches and they're just sales catch, you know what I mean? Like they're trying to catch you in their net and take you home for dinner, basically. So anyways, my whole thing is that I'm not trying to be overtly salesy. I'm just trying to provide information, and I didn't even bring my business cards. That's how much I'm not trying to push myself. But I have my business cards in my truck, so if you did want
Well,
one,
you know,
I can
spell
give it
his
to you.
last name CROSS.
Yeah.
And you can tell them you want me to go get them in your truck.
If you want, yeah. This is my wife, Katie, my beautiful wife.
Give me the keys.
Oh, that's right.
You have those.
Gotta give those to you. So anyways,
Can I ask a follow-up?
yeah, of course.
So, if you don't really do that business, you're just sharing your information with us
Yep.
on a kind of inbound business scheme.
Scheme, yeah, exactly.
Do you also like offer consultant services to people who
Consultancy, yeah.
are saying, oh, you're telling me that you don't do this anymore, so you don't really think it's even that good an idea? Well, what do you think is a good idea?
I think accepting credit cards, if you're a business owner in 2013 and you don't accept credit cards, I think you're losing out on a big market. And that, to me, it just doesn't make much sense, right? Like, on average, a brand new business owner who hasn't, not even necessarily a brand new business owner, but somebody who's been established for a while. I've run into a lot of these because where I worked mainly, when I got out of the corporate environment and I got out onto my own, that's how I kind of initiated the whole entrepreneurial aspect of my life, is I got into independent sales and I started doing stuff just beat the streets, talk, we had relationships with a bunch of different banks that would refer their business to us. And we still do. We have over 80 bank branches that refer business to us all over New England. So for a while there, I was basically just going out to businesses and talking with people and sitting down and that kind of thing. And I forgot where I was going with that. Consultancy, yeah. So I would just kind of sit down with people and explain, I can look at your existing statements if you have processing already and explain to you where you're getting the fees and, what's happening, how people are making their money off of you, that type of thing. And anyways, so I highly recommend accepting credit cards. It's just, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to get up here and have this discussion with everyone or whoever came, is the fact that, especially if you're in the liberty movement, like you should not be paying more than the bare minimum, right? I don't think so, because we want to keep that economic muscle that you have as strong as possible. We don't want you paying extra fees for no reason. And that just goes to a fat cat in Boston or New York or, San Francisco or something like that, who's probably lobbying anti-liberty causes, right? So that's the main reason I'm up here talking, is so that we can try to, take that money away from them and push it back into your pockets. So that's why, for example, like I said, with my business, I'm allowed to, and I don't know if you heard this earlier, but since I control everything that I do from the price, whatever I want, I can, give you the entire service for free if I really wanted to, but then I would be paying what your fees were, so I'm not going to do that. The reason that I can do those things and that I want to do those things for people is because I want to make sure that, you're not getting, you're not paying more than you have to, that type of thing. And obviously, like I said, providing the information for free. The only reason I'm doing that is because, let's say you don't want to go with me, and that's perfectly fine. I don't care. I really don't mind. If you want to go with somebody else, I want you to have that knowledge so that when you go to somebody else, you can make sure you're looking for the right things and not getting taken advantage of. So does that make sense? Yeah. Yep.
You had mentioned Square. I was just curious your thoughts on the Intuit services of the same sort.
So Intuit, from what I've experienced and from what I've heard, Intuit's program is really, I guess, eye-catching because at first they offer it for free, I think it is, for 3 months or something like that. But then the fees boost up really quickly after those 3 months. And it ends up being, okay, well now it's a fixed $30 a month, regardless if you do business or not, after 3 months, right?
It seems that they have different tiers of it as well, and they have one option that's like the same as Square, the 2.75.
And I actually haven't really looked at them in a little while, probably over a year, so I'm probably not 100% up on their current pricing models, but what I usually advise is a large big box company like Intuit. They have I don't even know how many thousands of employees, right? And they have huge buildings and all kinds of upkeep that they have to pay for, right? So when you're talking about a large company like that, how are they going to make their money? Generally, like what I found with the corporation that I work for, they have a certain minimum monthly profit they have to make off of an account in order to stay profitable on the account. And if they don't make that amount, they're going to either try and find a way to get you off of their system, they're going to terminate your account, or they're going to start raising the fees over time. That happens a lot here. All of a sudden you see a $5 monthly charge pop up out of nowhere, and you're like, what is this for? It wasn't in the contract. Well, they needed to make back that money that they were losing. See what I'm saying? Or they'll just start raising the prices of the transaction fees over time. My parents have been in business for 8 years. I've been doing this for about 5. We've never once raised a fee on our customers. We just don't do it, or on our merchants, we call them. We don't do it because it's an ethical thing for us. I was raised in a family that values honesty, all that stuff. So we just don't do it. And we probably don't make as much money as we don't make as much money as most people do. In this business, there are some guys, I hear them gloating when I go to the conferences and that kind of thing. I hear them gloating like, oh, I made $100,000 last month and blah, blah, blah. It's all well and good for you, but they really screw some people over in the process, and I could never live with myself and do that. So, anyways, so what else do we want to talk about? I think we have some time, right?
Debit cards.
2:40. So how about this? Let's just open it up so that anyone can ask any questions they want, and I'll try and address them as best as possible. Did I give a decent overview of it? Do you kind of understand more about it? And interchange, that's really important to understand. Like I said, the interchange plus pricing structure, that's the one you want to be on. It's the one that gives you the best pricing possible. The way I like to say is you never pay more than a fixed amount above what I pay. That's the way it works. So you're guaranteed, no matter what kind of cards you take, whether they're super corporate, rewards, triple airline, deluxe gold cards, or whether they're debit cards or gift cards, you're still just paying the same flat rate above what it costs me. Does that make sense?
Why does Amex cost more?
Amex costs more because Amex decided that they didn't want anyone else involved, and they wanted to do everything on their own. And they're a special club, and you have to make a certain amount of money to get an Amex, and they give their members such good rewards. So, like I said, part of it is the whole rewards aspect of things, right? If you're gonna have a rewards card that provides someone with whatever free services, that provides free services, right? That provides them with these services, someone's got to foot that bill. So Amex charges 3.5% and 30 cents on average to
Also,
most people.
They make you pay in full at the end of each month, so they don't get the interest charge off that, so that goes to the merchant too.
Yeah, there's all kinds of it's very frustrating when you realize these things, and when you're on the when you finally like get the back end part of it, you're like, wow, this is really shady. They've been screwing people over for a long time, especially business owners. And of all people, really, do we want to screw business owners? That doesn't make sense to me. They're the ones who kind of drive this whole thing, right? And I mean, consumers obviously do too, but so Amex, most people are pretty wary of accepting Amex because it's so expensive. My thing is, as expensive as Amex is it really worth turning away that sale that you could have made?
Yeah, more than 50% of our customers use Amex.
Yeah, so if more than 50% of your customers use Amex, you don't want to not accept Amex, right? It just makes sense. Even though it sucks and there's nothing you can do, like even I can't reduce their prices. I mean, I could, but then I would eat the fees that, is the difference, so I wouldn't be able to do that. But yeah, Amex can be crazy, and so can Discover. Discover isn't as bad as it used to be. I think there's been a stigma for a long time that Discover is, just like Amex. They're the rewards card that provides their consumers with rewards, and so we all have to pay a lot of extra money. Discover actually reduced their fees to become more like regular debit and credit cards nowadays. So Visa, MasterCard, Discover should be roughly the same in fees. If you see that you're paying more on Discover, you're probably getting hit some way through your provider. So you want to be careful on that. Yep.
So, I know you said your recommendation is go with Interchange Plus.
Yes.
So, I guess there's a lot of providers that have that offer that. I didn't hear. So what should I do? Like if I want to take credit cards in my business, who should I work with?
Work with me.
Okay. All right. So that answer good.
If you want someone that's not going to screw you over,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
work with me.
I got what I came for.
I'll be honest. If you're comfortable with what I've talked about and you're comfortable with me, you can talk to me off to the side after this if you want. Then I recommend working with me. I'll be somebody who's not going to screw you over. Like I said, with every merchant that I sign on, my goal these days is not to be making a lot of money, and I really don't. You can ask my wife. My merchant services business is really extremely low. I have over 100 clients, and I make less than $1,000 a month off of those, which is very, very low for the merchant services industry. Like I said, I have some. I'm sorry?
So you just need another 500 or 600 clients.
Yeah. But it's not my main business anymore, so that's why I'm not looking to make a ton of money off of that, because I make decent money through the other ventures that I
What
work
is
on.
your other business?
I have my own business is called ClickVenture, which is the shirt that I'm wearing right now. ClickVenture.com. It is a essentially resource for online entrepreneurs, for people who want to learn how to make money online. So that's ClickVenture, and then I run the third largest group on LinkedIn. It's called Social Media Marketing. Me and my father co-run that group, and we essentially market for large partners, HubSpot, Marketo, these big marketing agencies, and we essentially teach people about social media marketing, not merchant services. So social media marketing, entrepreneur. I like to help startups. If anybody has if anyone has questions about what are the steps to do this or that, I can usually help people out on a consulting level, that type of thing. And a lot of times I just do stuff for free because I just like to help people. It's just kind of in my nature. So that's another thing. But yeah, those are the main sources of revenue for me that I live off of. The merchant services really at this point is just to help people out and to make sure that they're not getting screwed. Like I said, I mean, I have friends. I have a lot of friends and I have a lot of businesses that I have had for a long time, and I generally, when I set someone up, I actually end up making friends with them because I talk so much. I don't know if you knew or if you could tell. Like I said, I'm honest, so I just like to be as open with people as possible, teach them everything that I know, and let them do with that knowledge what they will. Because I'm very laissez-faire about life. I'm very live. What's it called? Live and let live, exactly. So, that's the way I view things. And it's worked out well for me. I mean, even though I don't make a ton of money off of merchant services, it's decent to, help put towards the groceries and that kind of thing. But yeah, we've helped, like just as an example, there was a Toyota dealership that with their last provider, they were paying $8,000 a month more than they needed to be. Yeah. So we came in, saved them $8,000 a month. And we're only making like $100 a month or something like that. It's very low. The last guy that had them was super pissed off, obviously, because we took his $8,000 a month account. But that's the kind of things that these people can do. And it doesn't sound like a lot when you're talking about these nickel and dime fees, but they add up to a lot over the course of your business, Not everyone has a multi-million-dollar Toyota dealership, but that's just an example. We've also saved mom and pop shops a lot of money. And we'll have people who are with us for a while, and then they leave because they get pitched, by a sales guy. Oh, I'll save you so much money. I've had tons of customers come back to me. This guy's saying he's going to save me 50%, and I'm like, 50%? I make like $10 a month off your account. How can he save me 50%? And these guys are paying like $300 a month, and I'm making 10. So how could this guy save them 150 if I'm making 10, right? Like that's just not logical. It doesn't make any sense. Just from a purely like initial standpoint. Then when you get into the details, well, they actually screwed him over, and now he's paying $600 a month instead of $300 a month. So how did that happen? You know what I mean? And that's the kind of thing that happens every single day.
They come back too.
They come back to me and they. Yeah, well, they come back to me and then they want to have me pay their termination fee of $1,000, and I'm like, no. I make $10 a month off your account. I can't pay $1,000 termination fee unless you want to be in a 10-year contract, where and it still wouldn't even make any sense. So I just don't do that kind of thing.
That special offer expired.
What's that? Yeah, yeah. A lot of them will use that as a sales tool to try to get you to. They'll try to put pressure on you, if you don't have a business now and you're looking to set one up in the future, and you talk to merchant service providers, they'll tell you, oh, this is a 30-day only special, and they'll call you at the end of the month every month for a year if you're still on their books. And
now you're making 15 on their account, right?
huh?
But now you're making 15 on their account, right? Do they come back to you?
No, actually, well, believe it or not, you would think like if somebody leaves me, I might be a little spiteful and be like, okay, next time I'm going to charge you more. No, that's not the way I am. I just don't do it. I could, but I don't. Some people have been a major pain in my ass. They call me every week. Yeah, one guy, she remembers probably. One guy I set up, they wanted to be walked through how to do the software and everything like that, and I will help people with that and I don't charge anything to do it. I just do it because it's the right thing to do. And he literally had me coming like an hour and a half away from where I live for 2-3 weeks to show them how to do it, like every other day. It was like, yeah, because, oh, well, Rosie's getting all upset because it's not the same system as it was before, so if you can show Rosie how to use it again, I'm like, okay, I'll come. But I mean, now I make like $5 a month off his account, and I spent probably $300 in gas over that 2-week period, so it doesn't make any sense, but I do it because I do it.
Question.
Yeah.
So is the merchant services, the credit card processing completely separate from like payroll services?
Yes,
Separate from like POS software?
POS software is, I can do that. It is included in merchant services. It is like under that umbrella. Checks also, we can do checks, we can do cash advance. The only thing that, so payroll services, not the only thing, there's a ton of things that we don't do, but payroll services are one of the things we don't do. A lot of providers will have a payroll company that they will try to refer you to because they get a kickback from the payroll company in order to do so. So you kind of want to be careful of that because if the payroll company is going to pay the merchant service guy $500 to give him that referral, he's got to make it up somewhere, right, in order to do so. And most people are motivated by money in this industry especially, so they're going to be doing those things. Personally, I'm not motivated by money in this industry, so I'm not taking kickbacks from anyone, and I don't do that kind of thing. ATMs, some people do ATMs. Yep, you do ATMs?
Yeah, it's a big one.
Okay. Yeah, there's some businesses out there that do ATMs you have to be careful of because they'll, try to lease it to you or whatever that, they'll end up kind of taking some money. And personally, I don't know about y'all, but when I go into a business and they're not willing to accept the form of payment that I'm using, Bitcoin for example, if they're not willing to accept the form of payment that I'm using, I'll try to explain to them why I'd like to use it and why I think they should accept it. And if they don't, I may not patron that business, and that's something that as a business owner you want to keep in your mind. I can help you get set up with basically every kind of payment system there is. I have we have a new system that came out where it's like an all-in-one platform. It can be programmed for anything. It's open source, so we can put Bitcoin on it. We can put these different apps with what's the other one, Ripple and things like that. Whatever, So it's pretty cool. Anyways,
What's it called? That program.
It's changed names a few times, but I think I'm trying to remember. It's not even fully launched at this point, so I'll have to get back to you on that. If you get my business card, I can email you. But it's not really like one specific type of terminal or anything like that. Does anyone have any questions about terminals too? There's a lot of different types of ways to accept credit cards. You can do it through a virtual terminal. You can do it through an e-commerce gateway like a shopping cart. You can do it through manual imprinters. There's a lot of people that still use manual imprinters these days because they don't have internet. No.
No, it's still.
Wow, they're fully compliant, yeah. And we sell, I think, 2,500 of those a month. They're pretty, still really popular, yeah.
Power outages.
Yeah, they're really good back.
Yeah, when I worked at AT&T, this was a long time ago, when I worked at AT&T, and the power went out, we'd just bust out the imprinter. The new guys would be like, oh my god, what do we do? The computer's not working.
You run like a TD Bank debit card that's perfectly flat.
I ran into that.
Write the numbers down.
We're in a hotel. That happened all the time. I was like, what do I do? I had to start writing things down. It was like,
I was going to say, write the numbers down. I mean, as long as you're not...
10, what is this?
Yeah, and the way PCI works, PCI is the security compliance standards for the industry. I think it stands for payment card industry, right? Payment card industry. Data security standards, PCI DSS. Anyways, PCI is just kind of like fancy terminology for we decided to regulate ourselves before the government came in and regulated us. And really, as long as you're not taking the credit card numbers and storing them in a shoebox, you'll probably be okay with PCI. Don't keep people's information on your computer. You know what I mean?
There's a lot. There's actually when it comes to the computer stuff,
It gets complicated, yeah.
Because if you have
an SSL.
If you have a website on like a GoDaddy website where it's a shared server, that's a big no-no. If
Yeah,
you're
you
running SSL.
There's a lot of things to be aware of, so you want to make sure that you get with someone who knows how to do that. Authorized.net is a gateway that can help you, have the website and have that connection and be secure at the same time. And they can make it look seamless. A lot of times, if you've probably experienced, if you went to buy something on a website that's probably not your Amazon or something like that, if you went to buy something on a smaller website, you get redirected to the checkout page or whatever, that's because it's redirecting you to the actual authorized.net page. We have ways of making it look like it's still your website. It's just kind of like fed into that one page, so it doesn't do all the crazy redirects. Because some people get weird about redirects. They think you're, redirecting them and taking their information and stealing it and that kind of thing. So some people don't trust those things. So, anyways, any other questions? I think we just have like another minute or two left. Oh.
How's Bitcoin? Like,
I love Bitcoin. Bitcoin is really cool. Personally, I just look at it as more of a wealth preservation method at the moment. I feel like it's going to take a lot of, what's the word? This guy. It's going to take a lot of evangelists to spread the word. If you haven't talked to him, he's a Bitcoin guy, big on Bitcoin. It takes a lot of, I think it's going to take a lot of evangelists to get people to accept Bitcoins. Because the thing is if a business owner doesn't accept that form of payment, people aren't going to use it on a huge scale. So we need to get business owners being more friendly to the idea of accepting Bitcoins. That's what I think. And once it starts becoming more widespread, and payment processors, that's why we have that open source capability, because the people who created that open source thing, they saw into the future, and they're like, okay, things like Bitcoin are going to become huge. Well, we don't want to be limited and not allow people to set up the ability to accept Bitcoin through our system, because it just gives us more capabilities. There's so many things coming out these days. There's an app called Level Up. If you haven't heard of Level Up before, it's like a reward system. So a business can sign up for Level Up, and then you can pay through Level Up, and a business owner doesn't take any transaction fee hit on it, and Level Up will send you, have a marketing consultant you can talk with, and you can send out dings on their smartphone that says half price apps on Thursday at 5 to 7. See what I'm saying? If you're a restaurant or whatever. And they have all this kinds of wicked cool permission-based marketing intelligence that they collect, so that you can use that and say, okay, my regular customer Dan on Thursday nights, he always buys onion rings, so I can give him a special discount on Friday nights if you're hurting for business on Friday night. See what I'm saying? Really cool stuff. So anyways, and that's something that we do with that open source system that I was talking about. You can set up the Level Up system, you can set up all these different things that are really unique, and they really help you increase your business. So anyways, I think is my time up? I'm pretty sure it's 5 more minutes.
Well,
Oh,
technically,
2 more minutes.
Oh,
Or yeah, we're over.
oh, so end at 50 or something.
Yeah.
okay, yeah, then you're
But,
done.
so does anyone have any final questions? You can come up here and grab my business card if you're interested. If you're not, no big deal.
I know where to find you.
Yeah.
Yes, and if you want to find me, I'm on Facebook and all that other stuff. So I'm an open networker. So anyways, and if you want to talk to me afterwards, I'll just be standing right out over here. Thank you so much.
Sons, as I write you this letter, of days past and days yet to come, and the message of freedom, the message of freedom. I stand at the edge of the pages of history, and lessons unlearned. It feels like these pages are remaining unturned, but boys, it's no mystery. Children, I'm sorry to leave you this world in a state of disaster. It was given to me in a similar state, but I woke up so late in the game, now spiraling faster.